Hello, I'm Alex. I'm alcoholic. Congratulations on the birthdays. I'm really glad Maddie asked me to introduce him to speak 5 minutes before this meeting. I can totally do this. Maddie was one of the first people that I met when I came down when I started coming to meetings. I remember actually the day we met, it was at a fellowship event, and I could immediately tell that he was somebody that I could go to, with my alcoholism, and he's been tremendously helpful to me. He's somebody that I feel like, I was really excited when he told me that he was speaking, because I don't really know much about his story, because I feel like I'm just always dumping my problems on him. And I just love the opportunity to hear his journey. He's someone that has a lot of things that I'm really striving for in sobriety. I see somebody that's continued to grow, not only in his recovery, but his life. Like in the book talks about how that can be that a byproduct of a really good program. I've really seen, he has a sponsor. He sponsors other guys. He's got a relationship with a higher power. He does fellowship activities. He goes to a lot of meetings. I get really excited to see him when I come to meetings. Just he's somebody that I can talk to, and he's very positive, and always can brighten up my day. I remember when I see Maddie, I think of he makes terrariums for people, and he also will like make cards on their birthdays. And on mine, it was two stick figures, and that's me and him, and we're holding hands. And there's our rainbow in the background. And I always think of that when I see Maddie. And yeah, I think that's about it. But yeah, Maddie.
Production. Um, Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm an alcoholic. Very grateful to be here on my favorite day of the week. I love Sundays. There's just something about it that I cherish that the other days of the week don't really provide me. Yeah, this, like Alex's introduction, was asked of me pretty short notice. I just want to preface that, like, the best things in life, this is not going to be perfect. I'm going to like jump around a lot and probably not touch on all the points I would like to, but I'll just, I'm here to share my experience, strength, and hope. And hopefully something I say resonates with somebody, because this program absolutely saved my life. Um, yeah, I don't know where I would be without this program. Um, my sobriety date is January 19th, 23. Um, yeah, I still can't believe that I have 2 years of sobriety. It blows my mind. And there's no way that I could have ever have done this alone, despite my efforts in the past of trying to do this alone. I really need this community in order to give me the perspective and encouragement and spiritual guidance that most of my life was lacking. Just a little background. I was born and raised in the lower Hudson Valley of New York. Two parents. Uh, my mom was a my mom was a nurse. My dad did like computer stuff. Alcoholism and mental illness runs on both sides of my family. My immediate family, my extended family, and a lot of like my family's cohorts. Yeah, so from a very early age, I just felt something wasn't exactly right with me. I just never could fit into whatever mold I was trying to fit into, or be told I was fit into. There was just always like something lacking. I couldn't exactly name what that was. I can now, just through the work I've done, but I just lived most of my life, and still kind of do, just like this huge void this like huge void inside of me, and I carry that around with me all the time. Um, and I look back now, and you know, I spent all of my life kind of just pushing blame onto external circumstances, onto people not getting me or understanding me or excluding me. And, through the work of the 12 steps and just being in this community, I've come to learn a sense of like self responsibility and accountability. Um, you know, it's like I'm not in control of anything, but I have the ability to take the proper actions to give up that control in order to gain control of my life, if that makes any sense. A lot of my a lot of my early childhood memories were that of my dad. My dad's and he's an alcoholic. So when I was growing up, there was a lot of chaos and turmoil in the household I grew up in, and it was just this constant power struggle between my mom and my dad. There was um, a lot of yelling, a lot of slamming of doors. I can recall a lot of nights where me, my mom, my sister would lock ourselves in the bedroom while my dad was blackout drunk, screaming, just like incomprehensible craziness. It was a scary place. It was a scary place to grow up. I didn't have the support that I would, any kid would probably need. So, the environment I grew up in, it was just normal to me. I never thought that there was like anything, wrong. I thought that, a lot of parents would do that. One of them would get really drunk and then the other one would get really upset and kind of shut the other one out. Yeah. Um, I thought my first drink was when I was 15, but I was like looking over my mind the other night, and my first time drinking, my first memory of alcohol was when I was about 7 or 8. I was in Cape Cod on a beach, and I took a swig out of my dad's Sprite bottle, and it was just like pure whiskey or something. And I just remember my dad like coming up and like grabbing the bottle and telling me like don't tell your mom, don't tell your mom. So from a very early age, I associated alcohol with like shame and something that's just not to really be acknowledged or talked about. Yeah, yeah, there was just a lot of like I was just saying, like a lot of chaos going on. um so I just I didn't fit it. I felt like I didn't fit in at home, and I feel like I didn't fit in at school. I was a very inquisitive young child, and just like had this, still do, just have this like deep yearning to just know things almost to a detriment. And Yeah, that would kind of get me in trouble at school a lot. Teachers saw it as a disruption, and it probably was a disruption, but I was just like trying so hard to fill this void that I carried around with me, just through like trying to get attention and validation from other people. And that's something I still do. I still like, I crave attention, and the moment I get it, I hate it, push it away. It's a hard balance. Yeah. Uh, I just I wasn't getting the nurturance and love from my home life. So I tried getting it from my peers, and I didn't know, and probably still don't exactly really know what love is, but I did what I could to get what I thought was love, what love was. I do like weird things to impress people, like eat bird shit to try to like impress girls and just I don't know, just random stuff like that. I tried making friends and I just would just always sabotage these friendships just by like acting out too much because that's what I thought I was supposed to do to like get people to love me and fill this void. Um, in like grade school, I don't know, ages 8 to 9, it's like that's when I really started getting in trouble at school a lot um and it never really like occurred to me that there was like a root to all this. I just thought I was broken, and part of me still kind of thinks I'm broken. But you know, through this program, I realized that that's not exactly the case, and it's not always exactly about me. So I just associated like talking about my problems or asking for help with shame and something, you know, stating my needs or like asking for help or any of that. It just associated it with getting in trouble. So I just eventually stopped asking for help, and you know I was just having so much trouble with myself. And as I get older, I started to realize like, oh, if I just like try to be somebody I'm not, at least in that way, I can think that I'm getting like this love that I wasn't getting. So I would learn how to like read people and manipulate people and lie to people and lie to myself and just try to be somebody I never, never was. Um, I was just like I always just felt like I was like homesick for a place that didn't exist. Um, it wasn't until I began seeking outside help, that I realized I was like just experiencing just I don't know, a neglect in my life. And I'll touch, a little bit. I'll touch on that a little bit later. I growing up, I didn't really like see my mom too much. She worked a lot. She worked to like really late, so it was just kind of like at home. My dad, he worked from home, and a lot of the time he was drunk and would just say like horrible things to me. And yeah, it just kind of furthered my view of myself that there was just something not right with me. Um, so like I don't know, kind of when high school started, I kept trying to fit in. I kept trying to like fill this void and nothing was working. It just kept like pushing people further away. So I just felt completely alone with myself. I couldn't ask for help, or I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know who to ask for help. I didn't know that there were like safe adults that I could turn to. That just wasn't something that I knew at that point. And I just always like have this sense that I'm like in trouble, or that, like everything I do kind of just like gets me in trouble. And it just really fucked up my sense of identity. Yeah. Um yeah, so in high school, when I was like around 15, I had my first experience with alcohol on a cruise. And I had like 2.5 red stripes or something, and all this pain, all this loneliness, it just vanished almost in an instant, and I was just like taken over by this loving warmth, and I felt that void in me begin to fill just a little bit. And I chased this feeling. I was obsessed, like from the moment of that first drink, like I was obsessed, and I took it upon myself, like I made it my life's mission at that point to just like continually look for this relief through alcohol. So that's what I did. I would find any opportunity I could to obtain alcohol, whether that would be like stealing it from my parents, stealing it from stores, manipulating people into getting me alcohol. I would literally throw house parties just because I knew that there would be alcohol there. And instead of like socializing with other people, I would just take the alcohol and lock myself in my room while my parents' house got destroyed. This happened on several occasions, and like my sister and I were kind of like cohorts in this. Like she's an alcoholic, and we kind of almost bonded over this chaos. We both like had no idea what to do. So we just drank. That was our thing. Like it was the solution to all my problems. It worked so well. Like it really, really did. And I almost like thank it just for getting me through some of those like early years where I just didn't know that there was a solution. Um yeah, and it was kind of in high school that I realized that, you know, most other kids weren't viewing alcohol the way that I was viewing alcohol. Well, I thought like everybody was doing this and everybody's like home life was like fucked up, and, everybody was using every opportunity they could to like get fucked up. But I began to realize it's not really the case. Like people were forming relationships and, deep connections, and they were kind of slowly like growing from their adolescent self into, their more independent, mature self. And I just felt like so behind in all that. I felt like stuck at an age, I just felt stuck in the past, and I didn't know what to do except drink. So I just kind of began to identify as like a drinker. And, early on in high school, that it helped so much. Like it allowed me to be the person I thought that I needed to be in order to be loved. It was all I really knew how to do, and it was like the only thing that made me feel whole. So I kept doing that. I wasn't like the crux of my alcoholism definitely didn't happen in high school. It was like it wasn't a daily thing. I wouldn't even say it was like every weekend, but it was just I was just always waiting for the next opportunity to get it. The obsession was there. Like it didn't leave. And like I don't know, I just didn't care about the environment I was in. As long like if there was booze there, I was there. Um and like I was just delusional. And I just yeah, I gave up like so many opportunities to form like actual friendships, and I was just chasing like a sense of love from this chemical that I could have gotten from like other human beings. Um, yeah, my grades were shitty, but I got into college. And I knew like fully that I didn't give a shit about school. I had no idea what I cared about or like what I wanted to do, but I just knew that if I went to college, that there's a lot of alcohol there, and that was pretty much the reason that I went to college, was just to party. And it was successful. I definitely partied until it like wasn't a party anymore, and it got pretty dark pretty fast. Yeah, my freshman year, my alcoholic tendencies like began to really start to take over, and that's when I would like not go to class just to drink. That's when I started to hide my alcohol use. Like I don't know, lying about the number of drinks that I've had, hiding things in drawers, just like typical alcoholic behavior. And I was just like so delusional. I thought this was normal. I wasn't at the point where I was like really ashamed of it. And I didn't know I had a problem this whole time. I kept thinking like this was normal. And then I like slowly started to get like called out for it a little bit, but I just like my mind has a really good way of like something will go in my ears, but like I won't allow it to process whatsoever. I just like complete selective hearing. Um, yeah. Yeah, my grades begin to fall pretty hard, which wasn't a surprise. I didn't even know I was in school except to get fucked up, and like that's when my priorities just focused only on drinking. um and then I got a fake ID, and that's when things got really dark, and this is around sophomore year. And I found out that you know I'm a very anxious person, and I found out that if I just have alcohol in my system all the time, like I don't have to feel that like gut wrenching anxiety that I did. So I started to do that. I just like started. I remember like the day that I became a daily drinker. It was like just this Budweiser in my fridge, and I drank it before class. And I was like, why doesn't everybody do this? Like, I really have the solution. And I could sustain that feeling, for quite some time, and it like worked, and it was still fun, and it still allowed me to be this person that I thought I was supposed to be. And I never really even thought about like who I was or like what my values were at all. I was just delusional. Eventually my like academia kind of just devolved and stopped doing like any schoolwork. And then I kind of became a part of like the punk scene in Buffalo, New York. So that became my new identity. And it was just like this perfect community and environment that completely normalized my drinking. And I could like hide behind this like false identity by like being in bands and just like acting a certain way, where I just felt like, okay, like nobody's gonna know. And even in that scene, like people knew, and like people called me out. So things were getting bad. I dropped out. I don't know if I said that, but I did. Yeah, I dropped out. And then I started to craft my life around being in environments where I could drink like all the time. I started working in kitchens. That was like my main career choice most of my life. And I don't know if anybody here's like worked in kitchens or certain types of kitchens. It's like very normalized to be drunk on the job, before the job, after the job, and like you add cocaine to that, and it's just like it's crazy. Um, and it was just normal for me. It just kept getting darker and darker into my early 20s. I didn't know I was depressed at the time, but like looking back, I was sleeping till like 4 p.m. most days. I got up, was like late to work, already like 8 drinks deep when I got to work, and like felt totally fine. Didn't even like know I was drunk. Didn't know there was a problem. Um, yeah, so I uh I met a girl. This is like when I was in my early 20s, and I fell in love, and she was sober, and we really did love each other. And yeah, she was like the first person who approached my alcoholism with like compassion and didn't scold me about it, and she really like wanted me to get help. She saved my life twice from an overdose. We had some plans for the future, and I just like
spiraled and I lost control and I got scared and I left and I went back home. And this whole time I didn't like once think like, oh, maybe it's my drinking at all. Like it's her or it's, the environment I'm in. This is like completely normal and I'm okay. So I moved back home. I continued to work in restaurants and drink and yeah, I did like it was at this point that I like started to realize like okay, something's not right. It must just be my mental illness because like I didn't once it wasn't the alcohol. I would find like any excuse in the book to not place um I would find any excuse to not take accountability for my drinking. I was just like so delusional. I just couldn't yeah, I couldn't see things for what they were and I don't know if I still really can't. So because alcohol wasn't the problem and like I wasn't the problem, it must be New York. So I left New York and I and I pulled a geographic and I moved to Colorado and I was like, this place finally, like this place is gonna solve all my problems. Like I'm in this new place, new people, mountains, weed, snowboarding, all the good stuff. And in 4 months, I maxed out a $10,000 credit card, depleted all my savings, got evicted, um, got fired from this really cool like hippie pizza place for stealing alcohol. And it's like it wasn't my fault. They shouldn't have kept alcohol where I could be in reach of it. Like it was like should have locked it up. Um, I'm very thankful. I eventually reached out and made amends, and they were very nice about it. So I kind of like when I was living in Colorado, I kind of just had this cycle of finding a restaurant job, getting fired for some reason that like was beyond me and just not my deal, and just put like blaming everything on external circumstances, and I was just not willing to take accountability for my actions and didn't once think like, oh, maybe like this is affecting other people. Maybe like, if I don't pick up my phone for like 2 months, like my parents might be worried or any of that. It just didn't occur to me like I was just so delusional, insanity. I was just doing the same thing over and over again, and just the same things kept happening. Yeah, so I eventually just like stopped communicating with my family, lived on my friend's couch. Eventually those restaurant jobs kind of devolved to just like really like grimy gig jobs and styrofoam factories. Like I don't know what that was. And yeah, I hit a low point, and that's when I went to my first AA meeting in Colorado. I was drunk. Everybody knew it, and I was in my head. I was just like, okay, they know I'm drunk. I'm blacklisted from this meeting. So I never went back. But that's when I got my like first taste of AA and kind of saw all these like truly genuinely happy people, and it just didn't make sense to me, and it really like pissed me off. I thought they were all delusional and I thought I was right, and I just kind of associated AA with like some like fundamentalist Christian cult thing, and so that was it for AA, and I just kept on drinking, um, and I would eventually like really ran out of money, stealing money from roommates. I was like, I don't know, manipulating people into lending me money, just like looking around for change. I had a tab at the beer store. Like the guy knew me so well that, I had this like ongoing tab. That coupled with like copious amounts of drugs, and like that's probably what I'll say about that. It just was just not a good place for me. And um yeah, so yeah, things got dark in Colorado. I moved back to New York, and this was around like 24, 24. And yeah, and this is when I realized like, okay, I'm an alcoholic, and I was fully willing to like tell myself that in my head. And I knew there was a problem, but you know I didn't think that completely quitting drinking would do anything good, because I would still be like kept with all my like shitty thought patterns and just like self-hatred. So I, got really smart and like buckled down and just like learned how to drink better. Like, and I devised so many like really ridiculously impressive like schemes in my head that made so much sense to me. But now that I look back, we're just like the definition of insanity, just like, typical like switching from like heavy beer to light beer. I would only drink like five. Oh, I wanted to add, I started going back to school to like finish my degree, and that kind of like gave me a reason to take a look at my drinking a little bit better, because it's kind of embarrassing when you're going to school in a really small program and you're like wasted, and like there's just these kids who actually care about this stuff. And I just felt like this like bumbling idiot. I didn't want to feel like that. So, I kept on with these schemes. Was really good at like having mouthwash on me all the time. I did all the things. Uh, I would stash beer in like the bathrooms at school and just like go drink in the middle of class. And like my grades weren't great, but it wasn't because of the alcohol. I was just like not a good student, is what I was telling myself. So I like kind of drank less. And I really thought I beat it. I was like, nice, okay, I'm drinking way less than I did a few years ago. But the obsession, it just got worse and worse. I couldn't stop thinking about alcohol, to the point where I would just like leave class just to go to the store, just to like stop what I'm now realizing were withdrawals. I graduated somehow. You know, it was like a honestly an okay experience, those 2 years at school. It kind of showed me that there's more to life than being in this like dark, fucked up world that I created for myself. So you know, I wanted to make a change, like a big change. So the day I finished my last final, I got on a plane and flew to San Diego and I went to the Mexican border, and I began hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. Um, and I think I made it like 2 days, until I started to feel like really not well. And I was like, this desert heat, my legs like hurt. I'm so like nervous and shaky. Like, I don't know what's going on. Let me go, let me go to town and get like, I think I got like a case of beer for myself. It was ridiculous. And you're not really supposed to carry more than like 10 pounds in your pack. And I was like carrying like up to 30 sometimes. And it's really kind of interesting looking back on this experience. The PCT, like, it changed my life. Like, it was such a beautiful experience, and I wouldn't, take back that experience for anything. It really showed me a lot about like, not just like nature, but more just about that there are like people in this world who really fucking care and have a lot of love in their hearts and are willing to like reach out and help other people that they don't know. And like, I know it's not related to AA, but like it gave me like a sense that I could trust people, which is something that I just never could do. I could actually trust strangers, and that kind of that really showed me a lot. I'm starting to realize, like, I finished the PCT, and I don't even think it was because like I wanted to finish the PCT, but I just like wanted to get to the next town to get drunk and like fill my backpack so I didn't have like withdrawals. So I think like alcohol is the reason that I finished like like 2,650 miles of hiking. So yeah, thank alcohol for that. Yeah, I got back to New York after that, and yeah, I still didn't think alcohol was a problem, but I was just feeling so horrible inside, and I just like I needed to find a way out. So I needed like a way to feel better. So I built my 2003 Honda CRV out into a full camper, and then I drove across the country to find whatever it was I was looking for. It was with my buddy Mikey, and we kind of just lived like dirt bags. We just like kind of drove around the states, like climbing, and just I don't know. It was just like chaotic and dirty, and I loved it. And it really normalized drinking even more. And I ended up in Oregon, in about 2020 to fight fires for a season, and I was drunk on the job that whole time, and nobody else was. I thought I was like really sneaky. Yeah, um, yeah, and then I met my second girlfriend. Things were, I don't know, just hectic, and I kind of really want to start getting to what happened. It's what it was. I drank a lot. I was sad and blamed the world for my problems. So yeah, we were together for quite some time. I was drinking the whole time. She knew I was drinking. Um, I didn't want to do anything about it. Um, you know, and then yeah, 2 years ago, I had what I'm now realizing is like a spiritual experience. I saw this like I don't know feminine God energy coming from my ceiling and like reaching its hand out and just like telling me like it's time. And from that moment, like I knew I needed to like get help, and I knew I was an alcoholic. And yeah, so I went to detox, or I got meds and I detoxed. And I started to go to AA. My sister, she went into AA, and I went to my first AA meeting in New York. And um yeah, it was weird. I just wasn't. It was so weird, and it just like I felt so much like I've never felt anything in my life like at all. I was always trying to like I don't know, numb it with something, and like all that repression just came like rushing over me, and I was just so scared. But the people of AA like really reached their hand out, and you know they gave me a solution, and I got a sponsor in New York, and we started working the steps, like really working the steps. He was like a big book thumper, and it's like really what I needed at the time. And I just I did everything I didn't want to do. And I'm starting like I realized that in recovery, the best things that have like happened for me were when somebody's asked me to do something that I didn't want to do, and I just did it. And yeah, that's like a big takeaway, because like this shit's not easy. You know, but there is a solution. And so 3 months after 3 months after starting AA, I was like still in early sobriety. All this whole thing was like still so new to me. Um still wasn't really like looking at my own character defects, and still just like, you know how it is, like 3 months into drinking, it's so hard. Um, and then I got to Montana, and uh, yeah, I arrived in Missoula with my now ex-girlfriend, and like 2 or 3 hours after arriving in Missoula, I was in the 8 p.m. Zoom group meeting. And yeah, so I like walked down those stairs and I just looked around and like I was like, okay, like I don't know, I'm home now. Like, this is like my new family. And I wasn't even there for more than like 2 minutes. And I found my current sponsor, and we started working the steps and going through the book, and it changed my life. I got a service position, which I can't recommend more, especially like being like opening a meeting, being accountable for like being in one place on a certain day of the week to do a certain task for other people for an entire year is it's fucking life changing. And like I service really, really is what kind of changed me from being an outsider of the program, just to like being from like witnessing AA to like being a fucking part of this thing. And I don't know, it saved my life. I'm kind of just rambling now. Yeah, if you're new, keep coming back, do the things. And yeah, AA, I used to identify just like as a degenerate piece of shit, and now I can identify as like a functional human being, an artist, an athlete, a carpenter, and you know, most importantly, somebody that like if somebody has a problem, they can come to me now and trust me. And like I've never had that in my life, and I found it in these rooms. So I'm gonna keep coming back, and just want to thank you all for your time listening to me. That's all.